I guess we'll kick things right off. So this is the session on how to create most effective and comprehensive CTE program at your school. Got a session with three great panelists joining us who are veterans in education in the CTE community. And so to kick things off, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. We'll do that in a moment. But first, I'm going to kind of do a quick overview of what we want to cover in this session. So we've got an hour of time. Well, we had an hour. Now we have 45 minutes. And we're going to be focusing on a couple different aspects of this. Yay, we got a hooray in the chat sessions. So we're going to be covering how to create some career-ready engineering, architecture, and manufacturing programs, types of grants used, student credentialing, aligning with industry, determining what's core and what's elective, software selections, and then as we're going through this, trying to get some of your own stories, Charlie, Trisha, and Chad, your own stories of, the things that you've learned along the way, the challenges, and it's also some very specific stories for those that are looking to build a CTE program, or also learn just from your own experience right now. We will get into some of the pandemic-related questions as well. I'm going to try to save those as we get towards the end. For anyone, Islam, thank you for the welcome back. We're glad to be here. As we're getting into this too, for those that hung through this with us, the technical issues, if you have any questions as we're going through this, I'll do my best to keep those questions in line. It is a panel discussion, so there might be some questions that are relevant to the questions that we ask as we're going through this. So first, I'm gonna ask each one of you, and I will, Charlie, if you don't mind kicking us off, if you can just share a little bit about yourselves, your title and your role, how long you've been in this role, who do you serve, meaning maybe give us a little bit of a sense of the people you work with and how do you serve that community. And then the final one would just be based geographically. And I'm just going to go clockwise from my screen here. So Charlie, if you don't mind kicking us off and sharing that a little bit about you. Uh-oh. We are having difficulty with your audio, Charlie.
How's that?
There we go. All right.
Shouldn't have started with me. I'm coordinator for engineering and technology education in Virginia Beach City Public Schools. I've been doing career and technical education for years. So I've been a teacher, administrator, currently serve as coordinator. I oversee programs in curriculum in middle school and high school, and I help them implement their programs in each of the areas of technology education and pre-engineering education. So I serve coastal Virginia, Virginia Beach City Public Schools, and that's a little bit about me and what I do.
Great, Chad, if you don't mind sharing.
Sure. My name is Chad Downey. I'm a cluster manager for CTE. Specifically, I manage Chicago Public School, high school CTE programs in architecture, construction, pre-engineering, manufacturing, and transportation. I come out of a English teaching and English photography background, 13 years teaching, coaching, and then moved into my own business with construction and real estate and development, and have migrated back into education 2 years ago as a curriculum specialist, and then moved into my current position about a year and 3 months ago as a manager, because we went through a very large restructuring in CTE within CPS.
Thanks, Chad. Trisha?
My name is Trishna Anderson. I'm the CTE director in Kennewick School District. This is my 4th year here. I was a business owner for about 20 years before going into education. I was a business ed teacher for 5 years and then went into administration at the high school level for 6 years, and as a CTE director as well. We serve 7th through 12th grade in our Kennewick School District, which is in the lower south central part of Washington State. And I appreciate you having me here today.
Absolutely. Well, I'll kind of jump right in. I think we wanted to go through first is kind of get your definition of what is a successful CTE program look like. What are some of those key components? And we're going to start off with a little, I think that'll give people a little bit of a background and understanding of how you would describe one. And then we'll start getting into some of the details and the specifics of how you go about building those. I'm going to jump around a little bit and I'll ask each one of you to answer some of these questions as we go. We won't necessarily go in the same rotation every single time. So one question here is, what's the career areas or what's some of the main focus of your program? And also very importantly, why? I think some of the big ones are mechanical, architecture, manufacturing. But if you can share, what are some of the main areas of your program and also why? Why are those areas important to you in your program? We'll go backwards maybe this time, Trisha, if you can kick us off.
Okay. So in the Kennewick School District, we focused in the last 3 years more on computer science because it was, when we look at our high demand, that is where we were sitting as far as our area. So we have kind of revamped our computer science programs. We've got 3 fantastic teachers, one at each comprehensive high school. So they have gotten together, not so much this last year, but the previous years, they got together and put their programs, so they were more synchronized, but focusing more on certifications. We call them IRCs, industry recognized credentials, and how we can embed those, giving kids more student opportunity. But truly, the reason why is we looked at the high demand. We looked at what do we need to beef up in our program.
And was that because geographically you guys are up in Washington? Obviously the obvious one, Microsoft, Amazon, there's so many big tech employers there. Was the industry, was that one of the big drivers?
It was. We looked at it regionally. We looked at it state, and we looked at it as far as the United States is what do we need to get on board for? We don't want to be behind. So computer science goes to the top for us to focus on.
Okay, so not just regionally driven, but also just generally, what are some of the trends in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Okay. Chad, do you mind?
Sure. So I think my district's a bit unique. We're the 3rd largest school district in the United States. In my clusters alone, which are not the only CTE clusters, I basically work with about 70 to 80 teachers and serve about 2,500 students. Across our CTE programs, we're looking at about 10,000 students or so across the city. And we have I would say 46, 47 pathways with 12 clusters. There are 4 of me in our district. So specifically within my management space, we engage with local unions and private businesses and manufacturers and the upper level schools, city colleges, University of Illinois, in what highest and best processes for our students to either enter into the job pathway or further their education at the college level. So all of our programs really have to serve both types of students and a whole mixture of student capabilities in between. Sure is the ACTE high quality attributes. It's, that's our standard that we have for the last 2 years have really used as evaluating and adjusting our programs.
And so it sounds like, so your programs, you're constantly I don't know if reinventing them, but adjusting them based on kind of the external environment. You're talking about manufacturing and employers, employability. Are those pretty active then?
Yeah, so I came out of a curriculum writing role where I was in charge of all 45, 46 pathways. What I found was that creating a board of directors for each of those pathways was integrally important to better understanding what curricular adjustments, connecting with work-based learning, opportunities to serve the students. So yeah, it's always an ongoing process. This last year is my first year as a manager, so there's a huge lift in redirecting the programs because they didn't really have a cogent director in the past. So a lot of bigger adjustments have had to be, are in the works to make that adjustment, but definitely creating advisory boards and or board of directors, depending, has been a real important learning curve for me and for the program directions.
Got it. And Charlie, can you share then some what are some of the career focuses or for your program and why in your area?
Sure. We have a general advisory council that serves our city that meets regularly and also approves our Perkins plan for funding. And from there, we receive a lot of the business input from people about pathways that we need to explore. We're similar in pathways through our state and through the opportunities for young people. I'm in tech ed, so I'm in construction, production, drafting and design, communications, electronics and electricity, and power and transportation. So those courses are all under me, plus the middle school exploratory technology, middle school 6, 7, 8 exploratory. And so we also have a business coordinator. We also have a family and consumer science coordinator, and we have a marketing coordinator that all serve under our director. So the director really drives our division's goals, and then we follow up with those. We select courses that are not often, but we're always looking for new courses to offer. Energy and power, sustainability is a lot of our newer pathways we're looking for. But we also have a advanced technology center where students come for advanced training for multiple hours in a day. And we have a traditional T&I didn't mention trade and industry, which is our technical center programs, which is application-based for trade-specific instruction, including nursing and those kinds of things. So we have a lot of opportunities for young people in our city, which require a lot of follow-up by the coordinators to make sure it's on cutting edge. Each one of the programs, the tech center, the program, just the classes, have its own advisory board that helps them make sure they're doing things correctly with safety and those kinds of things, and keeping it current on new materials, new processes, things that are coming in, HVAC, things that the students will be using. So we're just looking to upgrade our programs, but also feeding them with the current literature, internships, mentorships, dual enrollment, all these things drive our programs.
That's great. So we get a good question that came in that's really relevant to what we're talking about. And this is probably be a very broad question, but from your perspective, what are the CTE areas of study? If you look at, so CTE standing for Career and Technical Education, is there a definition that you have that maybe encompasses, okay, here's as a CTE director or within that role, these are the areas that you define, or I guess maybe your own question is, what would you share? What would you say to someone that says, hey, what are CTE areas of study? How would you define that? Maybe Charlie, there's a...
Yeah, I would say any pathway, the term was mentioned before, whether it's medical, we treat all of our students as if they are college bound. Some go directly to, to work, to college. The primary areas of work really define what we do, whether it's business and accounting, whether it's power and transportation. Those are really the primary areas that we look at and define as anything that can make a young person career ready. That we know they'll be college ready because they've gone through our schools, but we also want them to be career ready. So we give them opportunities to explore. We give them opportunities to look at the different areas of interest so that they have a pathway. We also have a career plan that every student works in 9th grade to make sure that they have at least 2 or 3 pathways that they look for. We also follow a completer program. So if they take 2 years of our course, they get a completer status on their diploma at the state of Virginia. And I know a lot of states also, the CTE diploma, the SEAL, these things add in credential to our young people who finish our programs along with industry credentials. So what industry looks for, we back up on that to provide curriculum and then get students in the workplace as soon as possible.
Got it. We got a question here coming in from Brendan. When you observe your most successful classes or programs, so it sounds like, one, we're talking about a really broad range. If we're saying career and tech, is anyone that's going to prepare something for a career. So that can be a variety of different pathways or topics. But when you observe some of your most successful classes or programs, what are those programs doing that others are not doing? Chad, maybe you shook your head. I don't know if you're thinking.
Yeah, I think a classroom that is highly successful, there's really a clear indicator, which there are two clear indicators. One is that the outside workforce has engaged that student in a desire for a mentorship opportunity or an apprenticeship or a continued relationship through internship. That's an indicator that they have the skills that the classroom has built up in that student. They have the soft skills, the technical skills, and they're able to negotiate in the real world in an adult space. So that's a real clear indicator of success. Secondly, I think that for students to be able to cognizantly say what it is they want to do or learn in the next year. Students who are able to communicate with adult that, I really want to go to college for these reasons, or I don't want to go to college for these reasons, but here's what I'm going to do. And I think Charlie indicated that his state or CTE programs require students to have a really clear plan of what they're going to do post-graduation. I think that is an important marker of success. If the explanation is well thought out and well-grounded, and that there's really a creation of vision for a student's next try, what they're going to try next. And I think those two things are real indicators. Things like certifications and scholarships, all of those things are probably secondary to the ability for a student to communicate and or for a workforce to say, I want you in my building, I want you in my space as well.
How do you evaluate that? You were talking about there's certain criteria that you want the students to be able to, not criteria, certain traits you want them to exhibit, right? You want them to be have an idea of what their future pathway might look like. You want them to take an interest and involvement in their career path. How do you evaluate that on a larger level? Is that something you do through the instructors, through teachers, or through assessments? How do you evaluate that?
It's a great question. I think there are a number of tiers of evaluation. One of the things that I am working to put in place is essentially a BOI, EOI soft skill program where students need to be able to produce a resume, do a job interview, and those evaluations to be done by our work-based learning partners. So they have the ability to take a look at a student and say, from that interview, I would hire that person. And that there would be sustainable supports throughout the year and sustainable engagement opportunities with the teacher, with work-based learning opportunities to build those skills from the beginning to the end of the year. And they would be scaffolded year to year. So I don't expect a sophomore or a freshman to be able to nail an interview. What I do expect is for them to be able to function in a way that is professional in engagement with a person, with a work-based learning partner, shaking their hands, introducing themselves. Thank you for coming to our classroom. Things like that a teacher would be able to kind of quickly evaluate. And that would be scaffolded all the way up through maybe a project presentation the senior year, that it would be a resume, an interview, and a project presentation online in this COVID time. Building those sorts of skills.
Tony, to add on to what Chad asked, we have a workplace readiness skills credential that's offered to all CTE students. Take this credential. 22 skills that are built into all of our competencies from the state. A lot of resources for that, and the students are tested Normally, when they complete a CTE course, it's a parallel. They do it at the same time. And that has been developed from Virginia through the Weldon Cooper Center at the University of Virginia. So it's all been kind of flushed out and curated in terms of, and they get a verified credit for graduation for that, like an industry credential. And so that's another way that the employers know that they not only know their content, but they know how to be on time. They understand the importance of math, science, communication, safety in the workplace, all of those things. And there was a comment about soft skills. I agree. They're not soft. They are actually hard skills for business. In other words, it's what you really teaching students how to be effective in the workplace and be good employees. So we focus on that as well. It's a great program you got going, Chad.
We're trying.
Yeah, I agree. I like that term professional skills too, because it's the ability to act like a professional in a
Correct.
And it shouldn't, I get the word soft skills, but the connotation always kind of makes me feel a little bit strange too. I want my kids to act like professionals, maybe not when they're 6 or 8, but I want them to work their way there. Trishna, what about you? So the question was, when you observe your most successful classes and programs, what are those programs doing that others are not?
So I think that Charlie and Chad had a lot of, I can repeat some of the same things that they said, but we look at concentrators and completers, of course, in our system for the data, but truly when I look at successful programs, I look at the number of kids that want to be in the program. I look at the teacher, why is that? Why do so many kids want to be in there? The teacher, I've got this one computer science teacher that actually all of them are just stellar. They engage kids. They offer the CTSO. They offer the after-school activities. They try to get as many worksite learning opportunities as they can for these kids. The advisory council is one of the strongest for Kennewick Technology. We actually have 2. Our Tri-Tech Center is very strong, and so they have their own. We had to break off because there were so many people. I think that when you go into the classroom and you see that the kids are really engaged and they really want to continue taking more classes in that program, that's kind of what I base it on, and that's what I want to see. I oversee our 8 clusters of our career clusters, so I can't focus in on one. I have ag, business and business and marketing, skilled and technical STEM. I have the health sciences, family consumer science, business marketing. So I oversee a lot of those, and so that's what I look for is kind of what's setting these kids' hair on fire and why are they wanting to be in there, because we try to hire teachers that do that.
Yeah. How do you go about doing that when something comes built in with an instructor? That's fantastic. But finding the best people is always sometimes difficult, or maybe it takes a long time to build a program where you've got a fantastic cross section. Are there ways you can leverage or that you do leverage those great teachers and try to help take what it is they do and apply it to other schools or other instructors, or for the most part, are you just looking for that natural skill set and for that to evolve and recognize it?
So yes and yes. So I have, so we have moved teachers because of the skill set or different programs we want to build, and we have the teacher that can do that. We've had some changes. We are in the process of building our Kennewick High School is being rebuilt. It will be done next year. So we moved our architecture and drafting teacher up to Southridge, who needed to build their program. So that will help that. And then because we didn't have as much room, they're kind of in a makeshift situation right now in their transition. So we didn't have as much room. So that was a good fix. So we'll be looking for that architecture drafting teacher, tech ed teacher when the new building gets open. So I think that the answer is we really try to put the fit where it needs to be, because all teachers that come from industry truly have different, they really excel in a different area like hydroelectronics or hydro engineering. And they have to be more well-rounded. We try to keep all the different, all the 3 comprehensive high schools, we try to keep them pretty much on the same curriculum, but that's impossible. And so we just do the best we can to find the best qualified teachers we can.
Gotcha. So we got some really great questions coming in, and I think maybe it would be helpful to set the stage a little bit. I think we kind of started going into the areas of what the CTE programs are, how you, some of the components of them, who you work with, and maybe just focus down a little bit. If you're building a CTE program and you're looking at it from a high level, what would you say are some of the real core elements? So let's say 3 or 4 core elements to make a successful CTE program. I think that might springboard us that into some other questions that are popping up here. But what are kind of the 3 or 4 things you think that in order to really develop a successful CTE program, what would those things be? Trisha, I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Sure. I would say one of the first things is network and collaborate with other districts, with teachers in other districts, your teachers, and then other districts to see what they're doing. Probably one of my biggest things is really create a strong advisory committee and really ask a lot of questions and listen to what they have to say. You want to implement research and implement research-based curriculum. Go after the good stuff. Have at least one industry recognized certification attached to it. And just really encourage your teachers to build strong relationships with their kids.
Some good ones there. Charlie?
Yeah, I think those are all great aspects. I think the curriculum is important, that it's relevant to what you want to do if you're looking. If you're going to start a new program, the teacher is critical too, that their background mesh with the things that you're going to do. Oftentimes, career switchers, I think Trisha was alluding to this, that, are great in content, but they really need to be couched in terms of teaching and education and dealing with young people, certainly in the times that we have. So that's key. The content knowledge is good, but having a good teacher, somebody who can really present the content well to students is important. Certainly credentialed teacher, one that has the education background. I would say if you're planning a space, outfit it correctly, meaning that you provide everything that teacher needs, whether it's computers or AV equipment, the things that they need to be successful so that equipment doesn't be a hindrance, so that you plan for that, plan for the space, plan for furniture. Certification is key. A new course should be paired up with some kind of credential, some kind of additional piece. Because our employers, even when they hire our kids or take our kids in shadowing, would say that they interview better. They would start them off at a higher salary. They would, give them more complicated projects. So be thinking about the end in mind and be future looking. What is out there now that's sort of emerging that in 3 years, we need to have a class for that. We did one on game character design. We had digital visualization, but we didn't have it when we have gaming, but we didn't have specifically what takes it to build a character. So we'll be piloting a new class this year in that. So always looking for new aspects of things, that even if they fit other content areas.
Chad?
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything new to add. I think, if I were to pick, I come from the curriculum, background. Yeah, definitely curriculum, but aligning curriculum with the work-based learning outcomes and certification. And I think the linchpin in all of it is, if you have a really good teacher who has the technical skills and is a learner themselves, and then also has that special something that teachers have that inspire kids, boy, that goes a long way above and beyond anything else. But I think CTE is really unique in that it needs to continue to look forward in order to lay the good current groundwork. Coming out of an English classroom, that's not true. For some of those other spaces. And it's what makes CTE really exciting. And you get a good teacher who's able to look forward in what they're engaged and interested in. They're going to be great salespeople and trainers to their students.
Great. I've heard the term advisory board come from all three of you at some time or another. So a couple questions for that. One, how do you build an advisory board? Who do you look to? What are the components that you're looking to build a great advisory board? I don't know if anyone has
I can start. We have an application process in our division for our overall CTE. So business and industry people are in there, wide ranging from, we have shipyard folks, but we also have small businesses, people also who are entrepreneurs who are smaller businesses that are starting up are also part of that. We have banking, finance. We have a well-rounded group of individuals, but they do go through it's a school board approved council, so that they do carry some weight in terms of approving our plan. So I look for businesses, people who are interested, small business, large business. That's how we do it. And then in the trade school, in the technical center, it's people who are in business basically that are our advisors, welders, people like, people who own businesses, and also people who are distributors, suppliers to that industry.
And are they applying to, how do you find them? Do you have people that are out looking for them, or are they looking to be actively involved in this?
Both. There's an application on the actual website that's advertised, and the positions rotate open. It's like a 11-member council, I think. So every so often, a number of seats are advertised as coming open, and then people inquire. Community members inquire through the school board and through the central office about wanting to become more involved in CTE. But we also have informal things too. That's formal. But we also welcome individual parents getting involved in their child's education in class. Hey, I'm a printer. You want to come, field trip connections. All of that is can come up from the classroom as well. It's not formal, but it's parental involvement. We encourage that.
Great. And we got a question here from Christoph specific to advisory boards, and he writes, we've been working with the advisory board with several manufacturing companies, but since we are not eligible for Perkins, we've been having a hard time placing students in shadowing or internships because of liability and safety issues. Mm-hmm. What are your districts doing for this?
It's a common problem across the country. Students are not 18. So where we try to overcome that is we offer OSHA 10, OSHA in manufacturing, OSHA 30, which is a little bit larger, instruction in safety in manufacturing, general industry, and in construction. Employers will take a chance. We encourage it, but we try to build bridges with the employers. They work pretty well, but we do what we can. But it still is. One of our larger manufacturers will take our students into the industry, but not necessarily put them with an engineer on the floor, but they're still getting experience in the actual business. So we have had success with that as well.
I would say, just tying that, kind of going back to the previous question, we have that issue in Chicago as well. Is kids aren't 18, and it's a liability insurance issue for our manufacturing and construction spaces. But the way I think Charlie and my district's way of going about setting up advisory boards couldn't be more different. I really like the way Charlie's district's doing it. I've had to build advisory boards from the ground up, and mostly it's about personal relationships and really targeting. We tried to hone our energies and time with very specific folks that I think can have big impact. And then what I've found is they're willing to revisit their insurance discussions with their insurance companies once they see some value in investment, and they're engaged and have personal relationships with our teachers and students. It's a slow process. Mm-hmm. building a really strong advisory board, but it really is about educating the business community or the whatever manufacturing community to what the students are actually like and what their needs are, because we are, the kids we're bringing through are the workforce of tomorrow, and our manufacturing here in Chicago and our unions are really starting to see that, and it's causing them to change policy, which is, it's a slow go, but it's a really important piece of communication.
Mm-hmm.
They inform us as to like what we need to be doing with the students, which is also slow. So just developing relationships in that way and trying to foster positive change to be able to supply the workforce that's needed is really key.
Trish, I don't know if you have anything to add to that one.
Well, we have program-specific advisories, and so each teacher in each program is asked to bring somebody in. So that helps build our advisories, and then that's their connection. And then we have a general advisory council that has some of those people over the years get on the GAC, and we have superintendents on there. We have, so it brings the workforce together with the education system, and we have teachers. There's like one teacher represented from each district. It's a 7-district GAC, so it encompasses pretty much our region. And so from there, they make a lot of the decisions, like they help us approve our 5-year plans and that type of thing. But when you go back to the program advisories, which is some of them I facilitate and some of the teachers do and some of the work industry people facilitate. But that is the real combination right there of getting the information that we need into the classroom quickly. And we meet, most advisory councils per program meet 4 times a year. So it's pretty much every quarter. We do all our evaluation processes of programs, usually about the 3rd meeting of the year. It's a pretty great system, and I was fortunate to walk into this. I had struggled in a small school to set this type of thing up, but now in a large district, now I'm like, oh, okay, I think I could have done this a little better in a small district as an administrator, but because they've had it going on for about 35 years. So they've been doing it well for a long time.
I would just interject a question is, do you ever create an advisory board for special projects? Or do you use the same advisory board for your technical education programs consistently?
So each program has its own advisory, like journalism has one, sports med has one, family consumer science has one, ag has one, Kennewick technology, skilled and technical, they all have their own. But for a special project, I don't know if I can think of one that we've pulled people together. We have JROTC as well. That might be one where we did a special, like involving more parents maybe. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I guess I was thinking, like, for example, we have our transportation, auto collision, auto technologies, or even our manufacturing program. And I'm looking at like, okay, how do we build certifications in this space? Well, my advisory board as a whole may not be able to answer that. What I need is to create a special advisory board in order to kind of inform what the process is, what the highest and best options are. And so I guess I was just thinking, like, for, certain questions or projects, if there's flexibility in your advisory boards or what it's set up for.
We have done subcommittees for things, I think, like you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, it couldn't be something that would go on forever, but it might be a year or two of a subcommittee that just focuses on this project.
Got it.
That's what I would do. Then you can call your key people in on that subcommittee that that can do the job and will get it done.
Great, good conversation. I feel like a lot of these topics we could go so much. We'd spend half a day on each one of these.
Very true.
We only have 5 minutes left here, and I think a really big question that it's an important one. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this well. So at the very least, I don't know if we can go too deep in answering many questions, but at least maybe get people an idea of what other challenges you're addressing or being faced with in your program. But I think given the current COVID environment, right, the pandemic, if you can just share what are the biggest impacts or changes to your program as a result of the current pandemic. So, it's obviously had an impact remote, but what are some of the biggest ones, and how are you dealing with them specifically? Charlie, if you want to maybe kick us off.
Sure. I'll kick off. Our big challenge is digital resources. Most of the things that we do are class sets or by class. So we are working with teachers to get digital resources, online text, other resources that through the publishers, different subscriptions, but also we're doing online tutorials, things that the students can do on their own more. We were doing some of that, but we're looking at other things, drafting, we've done it for a while, but we're looking at using online tutorials, both in communications through Adobe and some of the other professional suites. That's been huge. The other thing is making sure that all the students have equal access is a big push for us to make sure that they have access to the technology, to the internet. So we're fighting that, not fighting that, but we're working on that challenge. And I'm working on trying to get the curriculum compressed. It's different. We're going to a different schedule, 4x4. So we've been doing year courses forever. Now we're compressing a year into a semester between now and the beginning of September. So it's all hands on deck. We're meeting regularly. We're meeting with publishers. We're trying to compress activities, give the teachers competencies, and help them with their learning plans and figure out how they're going to do this, both face-to-face and digitally and virtual. Those are our challenges. And we're looking to open our buildings, though, as quickly as possible. So we could open in the first marking period. We could open the end of September. We could open the end of January. It's a little bit of unknown. It's a little bit of, and then also dealing with, parents, students at home, teachers who are parents at home trying to teach their students and their kids. So it's a wide issue that we're working with and trying to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, especially for CTE, which tends to be very hands-on, right? So
we have our biggest challenge is the term which virtual laboratory.
Yeah,
so,
good one.
Virtual projects, or how the students get the application from the digital. They can see it, but they need to do it, and that we're going to be working the best we can on that.
Yeah. Chad, how about you guys in your program? What are the?
It is a tremendous challenge, and we have access issues. We have students without, who they may have a cell phone, and they're broad and wide. I think rather than talking about the challenges, because I think we all face very similar ones, a couple solutions that I've learned over the last 3 months is that I really try to find the right teachers to do some development of curriculum and online programming for their courses. And I try to do that ahead of time. So I've kind of sourced a couple of teachers, and I had them run an internship program with like 20 students, and for them to develop a first semester 10-week, 20-week program that was delivered over the summer as a trial. And then they're going to present that to those pathway teachers, a couple weeks before school starts. So, just trying to vet some curriculum where our teachers have had some opportunity to do that. I think that's been really good. Secondly, just looking at, for $100, what sort of supplies can I get to a student's home? For $50, what can I get to a student's home that will engage them? In engineering and manufacturing, Legos are a miracle worker because of everything that you can do and talk about, and some measuring tools for cheap, and just getting those shipped out to students' homes if we're on lockdown for the rest of the year. Thinking about those sorts of solutions that are economical really has inspired a lot of discussion and hope for our teachers.
I love that. Just simple $50, $100. What can we get done? Yeah. Trisha, what about you? We got just kind of wrapping it up here.
2 seconds.
Sure,
So
yeah,
I
take a minute.
Totally agree with, I think, the struggles of online distant learning. Totally agree with Chad and Charlie. And the one thing that I could just say is for teachers is to build those relationships with the kids to keep them engaged during this, because I think that was, the teachers struggled with online and the distant learning at first, and then they just kind of like got it and they're like, okay, we can do this. And then about 5 weeks into it, the kids were just kind of like checked out. And so I think that truly the more relationship building and the more keeping in touch, and I love the toolkits going out to the kids because, teachers do care and they want those kids to be successful. And so building strong relationships at this time is really, really important.
Yeah, I see that with my kids too. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you guys, Trisha, Chad, Charlie, and everyone that took the time to join this session. Sorry, we ran into some technical issues in the very beginning, but I think this ended up being a great session. I learned a lot. For everyone that had submitted questions that we didn't get a chance to address, we're going to make these available. If you guys, Charlie, Chad, and Trisha, would be able to respond to some of these offline as we've been doing with the other questions. So with that, I'll wrap it up. And thanks again, everybody. To you guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.